All right, everybody, so last time we left off, we did a landscape painting with 2 graded washes. Now remember, graded wash goes gradually from dark to light. How you achieve that is you add water toward whatever section you want it to be lighter, and then just drag your paint gradually into that water, okay? Anytime you drag your paint into the water, it's going to gradually lighten your pigment or your color. Okay, now one thing I did not mention last class period is the more water you put down. Okay, so remember we put it down kind of closely to that horizon space here for the sky, and then we put it down again close to that horizon for the grassy area. The more water you use, the less control you're gonna have over your graded wash. I tend to like flood my pages with water, and then I wonder why I don't have control over where my color is going, okay? So just a real quick reminder, just something worth mentioning, is that if you put down a lot of water where you want it to be lighter, it's possible you'll lose a little bit of control. So minimal water, and then you're gonna drag your color into that water and it gradually will lighten, okay? The other place we left off last time was talking about the structure itself, okay? So I didn't do any detailing within my my structure in my house here. That's fine. This was just an exercise. Remember, we kept that basic cube structure of, let me grab this real quick, light, medium, and a dark. Okay, so let me share this with you. Remember when we did our cube, we had light towards the top, medium across the front, and then this dark, the side was a little bit darker. Same thing, but reverse here. So I tried to make this side darkest, this my mid-tone, and then my my roof my highlight, because that is towards the top where the light is coming from the sun. So that's a real quick way you can apply that, is just mixing, making sure you have 3 different tones and plugging them in, okay? And I did that really quickly. It looks pretty decent. So today I'm gonna focus on my tree here. Now I haven't really watercolored a tree in a while, so we'll see how it works out. And what I have mixed ahead of time is as follows, and you're welcome to mix this or not, or how you mix it can be different. I have just sort of a brown wash that I have just water, and I dropped some brown into it. I am not sure exactly what type of brown this is going to make. I'm assuming it's going to be lighter than this one right here. I did another wash for my just general green for my leaves here. Okay, so it's going to be lighter than this. I mixed brown and green for this right here to make my darker shadow green color. You're welcome to try mixing a little bit of green, brown, maybe even a little bit of blue to darken that up. Keyword being minimal amounts of that, but see how this, my shadow color, is a lot darker than this. And then I tried to create a highlight color just by mixing a little bit of green and yellow together on my palette lid. And again, you know, mixing them as washes, meaning I'm adding water to my palette lid first, okay? So I wanna share with you just really quickly how to do like a wet on wet sort of leafy section for my leaves. And what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm actually gonna use a larger round brush here, because my leaf area here is kind of large. And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my color from my palette and I'm gonna put it down just kind of overall. Because this is dry, I can kind of go right up to this area here. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna try and lay down just very quickly just a wash for my green. And what I'm going to attempt to do is actually drop color, my light and my dark, into this in hopes of a wet on wet, and we'll see what happens together, okay? All right, so right now this is wet. I'm going to go ahead first, and I just want to drop my darker green in, and I can actually downgrade to a smaller brush for this. I'm going to keep to this one for now, and I may downgrade it a little bit. But I'm gonna go ahead and just sort of drop this in. So because this color here is wet, I can drop in strategic areas towards the bottom of these leaves. I can drop in this color for my shadow. and see how it spreads around to make it a little bit more natural. Okay. Just dropping it sort of towards the bottom of some of these areas. It's actually looking kind of cool. Now, I don't know how this is going to look. I'm rinsing and blotting. I'm going to try and drop in my lightest tone over top of my mid-tone. This is probably a bad idea, but we'll see what happens. Actually, that doesn't look super bad. So because this is wet, it's able to spread around and just sort of intensify that. So again, I'm adding this towards the area where I want it to be like a little bit lighter. And you can kind of play with this and mess with this method. The key is that your initial wash, that lighter mid-tone of green, needs to be wet while you're dropping this in. And I actually think that that looks kind of cool. Okay, so rather than painting each individual leaf on your tree, you have something like this, okay? The next thing I did want to share with you is how to kind of create some cylindrical branches. And what I'm going to go ahead and do, and actually I'm going to downgrade my brush for this. I'm going to use a smaller round brush, I think, is I'm going to add some water in the center of each of these branches. And remember, we want to keep our branches separate from the leaf that we just did. So if my color might run together, if I get my brown close to that wet area, okay? In an actual painting, you might not want to do that at the exact same time, all right? I'm gonna upgrade to a slightly larger round down here towards the bottom. And again, I'm just adding some water in the middle of this, okay? Now, let me share with you what we can do in order to make this tree look like the highlight is kind of in the center of that bark area. I was going to start at the top first, but I think I'm going to actually start at the bottom and work my way up in hopes that some of this dries just a little bit, okay? So I'm going to use this larger round, and I'm going to grab the brown wash off my palette lid. And let me pull this up here a little bit. There we go. I am going to add this pigment closest to the edge. Okay, it's a little bit light for my taste, so I'm going to go back in and add just a little bit more. I'm adding a little bit more pigment to my wash here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add this on either side. There we go. So I'm going to add it from this side and from this side. Okay, and it's kind of trying to keep that highlight in the middle. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to rinse my brush. I'm going to blot it on my paper towel, make sure that it doesn't have any paintbrush drool. Okay, so this is a clean semi-dry brush. And I'm going to go ahead and soak up some of this pigment just in the center. Okay, and I put some of it back down just to kind of make that color. So this, again, it just allows for that that highlight to be more in the center, okay? I'm gonna do the same thing as I work my way up, except I'm going to grab a small paintbrush here, put it in my wash that I've created. And again, I'm gonna do this on either side of my branch. Now, if you get this too close to your leaves, it's possible that it's going to blend together. All right, so just something to think about. In fact, let's see. Actually, so far I'm doing okay. It's starting to blend a little bit here. All right, I'm gonna rinse and I'm gonna blot my small round on my paper towel, and I'm gonna just do a little suction right in the middle. Okay, just to kind of keep that that branch lighter in the center. I'm gonna add a little bit of darker right up here, just because as it gets closer to those dark shadows, it's gonna be a little bit darker as well. I'm going to go back and add, because my water has dried, I think here, I'm going to add it in the middle again. And then I'm going to grab that color from my palette lid and drop it in. And it looks like I added too much water, so I will thirsty brush it in just a moment. And y'all, the point of adding the water in the middle is just to keep that that highlight. Whoa, that's way too dark. What am I doing? Not paying attention. Okay. I can thirsty brush it up though. So I have a brush that doesn't have a whole lot of water on it. So it's clean, it's dry. I blot it on the paper towel and I can suction a little bit of that up. For each time you do a suction 7th grade, when you do a thirsty brush, you do have to dab off your color on your paper towel. Actually, that looks decent. This is not the best tray I've ever painted. I'm also not a watercolorist, so there's that. But this is just kind of a real quick tutorial on how you can apply some of these techniques like wet on wet, graded wash a little bit to your tree area, just to give it a little bit of depth and dimension. Okay. Also, random side note. So let's say you're like, okay, I like the way this is looking, but I just need a little bit of a darker tone on this one. You can go back and add it and, you know, erase some things. You just can't go back more than about 3 times. Otherwise, your paper is going to start to pill. Okay. So your water and your paper are going to become not friendly to one another. All right. So just wanted to give you that real quick tutorial on how to do that tree area.